welcome. This is your host, Jules Schroeder, tuning in from my living room in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah. Today's guest is Chelsey Korus. Chelsey, are you ready to take us down the path less traveled?
I am.
Awesome. Super excited to have Chelsey on here. For those of you that haven't seen Chelsey on Instagram, this woman is like a woman of all different talents. You've been teaching yoga since you were 15, featured in Yoga Journal, along with so many other different publications. The founder of Awake, which is a company that does all these different life experiences. Mm-hmm. I know you're on tour right now with Wanderlust as a yoga teacher. Right. You also host large-scale retreats and events, and are just doing a lot of different things. And Awake itself is a really interesting movement and philosophy as well. So fill in any gaps that I might have left out and give us a glimpse into your personal life. And
amazing.
Tell us all about it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Is there a specific question?
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the Awake philosophy, because what's really interesting is you've been teaching yoga since you were 15, and I was also have been a yoga teacher the last 6 or some years, and when I was coming out of training, it was like, yoga teachers never make it. You can't make that much money doing yoga, and I feel like you've combined a new way to take yoga and the arts and the philosophies and really turn this into a whole new lifestyle. Yeah. And so curious, for those that don't necessarily know your full world, give us a little bit more beyond just, as a yoga teacher, but what is Awake? Yeah. And what is the philosophy behind it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I started this whole yoga journey, I tell people it was to rebel. That was my rebellion, we all do it in different ways, but mine was I snuck into yoga classes, I didn't tell my parents, and it was the thing, because back then, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now, and the things that were being taught were so radical to my little teenage mind. It was Chelsey, you're bigger than your thoughts, and I'm like, what? I am, and you can be an observer of your thoughts. You can let your thoughts pass you by, and I'm like, whoa, it was huge for me. So I have always held this practice with such a sacred, place in my heart that I never thought it would be a career ever. I actually had to have several mentors in my life, rip me from the shadows and say, you're teaching, I believe in you and you're teaching. I couldn't do that for myself in the beginning. So I never thought it would be this, but since I've been doing it my whole life, but I did know that it was always going to be part of my life. It was going to be something I was going to do every day for the rest of my life. That was a deep knowing, I was I will do this practice. And I'm not just talking about down dogs and up dogs. I'm talking about the tools that yoga gives you to see the world with. So I'm I know I will continue to learn, and I will always be a student forever with this practice, but I didn't know I'd be teaching it. But I'm a twin. I'm an identical twin. And so some of my earliest memories is of teaching. It's my mom will tell the story about where we had the same crib back then. It was okay. Back then you could just throw as many kids. It was probably fun. And Haley, my twin sister, would be crying about something. We're babies, and I would be humming to calm her, to soothe her, I taught her how to ride a bike. I taught her how to spell. When I learned a letter, I learned yellow to spell it, and I always just taught her. And so it's always this transmission. If I got something, it wasn't enough for me to have it. I want you to have it too. And so the more I just fell in love with this practice, I couldn't keep it to myself. Yeah. So I just started this life of yoga, and then I found these roadblocks, right, when I'm teaching, because I'm I want to be able to talk to my students about their own personal journey that is independent for just you, your soul, and your practice and what you're learning, what's coming down the pipe for you, which is a different conversation as this, we are all one here, we are all connected.
Totally.
And so I'm I gotta come up with a vocabulary, to be able to talk to people about this, so we can just, because I'm only in town for a day, it's I'm gonna come in for a day and then I'm gonna leave, and I want to give you as much tools as I possibly can. So it was just easier for me to create this 3-pillar Awake program where I could just start talking about it. We could all learn, this language, and then we can talk to each other on a deeper level quicker, So we can just jump into a soul conversation. So that's what the soul is. It's this messy dive into your personal journey, and it should be messy, and it gets to be messy and wild, and there's not a lot of certainty about it all. It's not your strategic mind. It's this felt sense of your dharma, it's your purpose. And then, also have this amazing way of rising above our circumstances and taking a hawk-eye view and seeing, whoa, I am a part of this greater web of life. Like I am, and you are, and you are, and we are one here, and we affect each other, and it's nuts, you know? It's like my thoughts and my words and my actions actually matter, and it's creating a future for other generations. Whoa, you know, it's like that, but that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, totally. Right? There's so much of what you're saying, particularly the language and having a vocabulary for it.
Yeah.
And I find like so much of this unconventional life, even using these words like flow, waking up, awake, consciousness, like so many of us, you know, whether you're lone wolves, whatever part of the world that you're tuning in from, you know, it's like you go to your coworkers, your friends, or sometimes your family, and there is no commonality. There is no sharing.
How do we talk about this?
How do we even talk about it? In other ways, you just sound like completely ridiculous. And I always like to say I'm either like bordering the line of like batshit crazy or totally onto something. And like, you know, but to actually create like intentionality around language. And so like share with us, like if you break down like what awake is, like these three pillars, like give us a window into that. And you know, from the perspective for those that don't necessarily have community or conversation or tools, how they can start to interact with it.
Amazing. So you have soul. And that's what the yoga practice does so well. It's your four corners of your mat. You know, it's like, it's you getting on your mat and you know, creating a daily practice that you show up to. It's like a sit spot out in nature. You know, it's like you go out and I'm going to show up every single day and all I'm going to do is observe. That's all I'm here for. You know, it's like I'm going to come to the same spot at the same time, at the same, you know, every day, and I create this rhythm, and all I'm doing is tuning the frequency of my witness, of my noticing. That's all I'm gonna do. And like, if you do that and you actually commit to that, there's gonna be this profound knowing that just starts to come where you're like, I know what I'm supposed to do next. I strangely know what I'm supposed to do next. You know, it doesn't come from any outside source. It comes from within. And that's with this soul conversation. So that's the traditional yoga practice. It's your meditation practice. It's your solo wandering practices that I love to guide. You know, I love to give you journal assignments and, you know, sit spot nature assignments to get you connected, because that's really where the wonder happens. So that's soul.
Yeah. Inside of soul, before we go in, for those that like have more of a conventional life, like 9 to 5, would you call that, or that are like, what kind of conversation are we even in right now? Like this soul thing. Yeah. Would you relate to that, like intuition? Does everyone have access to it? Or
everyone
if we were
has
to go,
access to it.
Yeah,
100% everybody has access to it.
And for someone hearing this, that maybe is like, but how do I, like, I'm just not that kind of person, or I haven't had that kind of experience. Any like quick little exercises or tidbits of how they could connect to that in more of like a conventional kind of frame?
Tell me what conventional is.
Right?
Yeah.
What is conventional? Like in more, maybe more even just like a concrete way. Is it like through a journaling practice? Is it through...
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many. Do you have a dog? That's a great way, you know? It's like you have a cat, you know? Like having it's not this strategic mind. It's you know, when Rumi says, go down, down, down in the ever widening circles of your being, it's like it's that. Yeah. It's there is this well. There is this within all of us. There is this river that's always rushing with creativity and generative ideas, and it's always there. We get removed, and we don't realize, we forget that it's there, and all we really have to do is go into its cold waters and like wash your face. You know, it's like just wash your face, and you'll remember. We can all remember ourselves back. So I guess to answer your question, a conventional way is just this quick, you know, body scan. Am I even available? What resources do I have right now available to noticing what's happening in my now? You know, because a lot of us, we are 10 years ahead with fear thinking, or we are 10 years behind in shame thinking, you know, and it's like, how much of my body right now is actually available? Like, can I feel my left foot on this chair? You know, can I feel my right butt cheek on this chair? Like, how much of myself is actually available? And that's just I think anybody can do that. You know, just do a scan and go, wow, I'm not here right now. You know, I'm going to get here. I'm here, you know? We can always get ourselves back. Yeah. So that's soul.
Yeah, awesome.
We got spirit next. Spirit is that like risen above sense that I belong to something bigger. That's all of the community stuff. That's the acro practice that I love to do. You know, I started off doing acro 10 years ago.
It's so much fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Big acro.
It's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun.
Or, you know, any partnered practice, or, you know, you have your accountability buddy at the gym, or it's just it's a place that you realize that you have a witness to your life, and that we need community. We actually need it. It's part of our fabric, you know? And I'm really independent. I love my alone time, you know, but I too, you know, we need people around us that are going, hey, I see you. You know, look at you. Do you know where you've been? Like, and where you are now? Like, we need that account. We need that witness. So that's this rising above, and that's where we get to practice that. We get to use that muscle of, it's not, I'm not any more important, but I'm not any less. You know, it's like we all count, and we all have this really cool spot to fill in the web of life that is our own, but we do connect. You know, it's like it does have a moment of connect, and that's where we get to feel a connected joy about what we all have. And we also have a connected grief, you know, from the garden that we were entrusted. And there's a grief there, looking around the world and like, oh my goodness, look at where we are, you know, but that is a shared thing that we all, I'm getting goosebumps, you know.
She's channeling everyone.
I'm channeling, you know, like that's what we all share, you know, you share it and I share it, and like we don't even have to really talk about it, you just know. And I know, you know, and it's like, and we're in this together. That's what spirit is. So again, these sound very different because they are. They're very different, but that's how, you know, us human beings, we have the agency to have that kind of a thought. You know, we're not in survival mode all the time. We have the ability to go, I'm rising above now. And we have the ability to go, I'm rooting down, you know? So it's those two.
Yeah, totally.
And then the final part is, I call it environment, because the way that I talk about environment is, it's everything in my life is an accumulation of my choices. That's what I believe that, you know? It's like the people that I continue to have around, you know, like they're there for a reason, you know, it's like I'm keeping you around because I want you here, you know? And if there is a particular time in my life where that's toxic to me, or I can't stop trying to rescue you, you know, it's like debilitating my resources, it's up to me to like set a healthy boundary, you know? Or it's up to me to go, I'm gonna raise the vibration, I'm gonna go to that meeting even though I'm terrified. You know, but the person that I'm becoming would go to that meeting, you know? Like the person I'm becoming would totally go to that meeting. And, you know, it's up to me to change my environment. So really, you get soul. You do the deep dive into who you are, and you find that little nugget that is just yours. You place it into the web that is spirit, and then you know how to take action, and that's what environment is.
So good. I love all that. The awake method, everyone. And in regards to environment, you know, especially for those that are tuning in, what if they're like, I don't feel like I have much access to environment. Like I look at my environment, there's like not much opportunity. Like I look at my job that I go to, people aren't having this conversation. Any practices that you could give on how to create environment within environment?
I know it right now.
You got one for us?
Yeah, I got one because I was there for so many years. You know, I grew up in the Midwest, and you know, the way that I saw the world as a young person was, Chelsey, it doesn't matter what you want. It just doesn't matter. You know, there's all these people in the world that are suffering greater than you. So just, you know, put your head down and just work. You know, it's like, that's what I was raised to do. And that's not a bad thing. You know, that really turned me into a driven hard worker. But there came to a point where I had to realize that I was worthy enough to want something. You know, like actually want something for the world, for myself. So for me to say, hey, even in a dating relationship, for me to say, I want to go to this restaurant tonight, that was impossible for me. I would always be like, babe, whatever you want to do, like wherever you want to, I mean, I'll go anywhere. You know, like that's totally me. That was totally me. So I had to do a practice of what I call a should fast. A should fast. So for 24 hours, I couldn't say the word should. Like I should go work out. Oh, I should eat healthy. Or I should go to a movie with my friends. I should be social. You know, like I had to just delete it from my vocabulary. And I was amazed at how hard it was for me to say want to. Amazed. You know, and so I gave myself grace, but I slowly started to step into this like worthiness of going, actually, I do want to. This is what I want to do. And that's what's going to reveal. And it seems like it's a small thing, but it will create a big shift in the way that you see your own desires, and that they are important, and that there is a deep knowing in you that's like trying to, you know, get things into your consciousness. It's slowly trying to get, but you're holding on to the past so hard. You're like, you know, but it's like, but there's another way. Yeah, there's another way. And I think it lives in the want tos. It lives. I agree. Not just like frivolously, you know, oh, well, I don't want to go to work today and I don't want to do this. It's like a deeper, like I want to have, you know, that person, I admire her, and I want to have a conversation because I admire her, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to walk up to her and say, hey, I just admire you, you know? And it's like, it's going to start to become easier and easier when you think that you're worthy.
Yeah, I mean, the worthy enough to want something or to want anything, even for me, you know, like I remember, so I started my first like 6-figure company at 18, like 7-figure company at 22,
Whoa.
like totally did all this stuff. By 24, I had a business partner embezzle a bunch of money, so I went to like $200,000 worth of debt overnight. So saw the other side of that, and then had like 27 employees. Just little things, you know, no big deal. But like even inside of that, like from the outside, it would seem like, you know, I was just living my life on fire and just doing whatever I wanted, but I had such restriction and such barrier. And I think everyone's barrier to, I call it their want meter, everyone's want meter is throttled in different ways. And even though I was making it, I wasn't really making it. I still would only give myself permission to an extent. And so I'm finding like what you're saying, the worthy enough to want something, massive practice I've experienced in my own life. But even for all of you, like just even playing with like the shoulds and bringing that awareness to it, it's profound. So yeah, totally profound. And so like I get curious, you know, like imagine Midwestern girl growing up, like if we were a fly on the wall, like your parents, your family, I would probably imagine a conversation like this didn't go around the dinner table. And so what would we have seen like in high school? Did you go to college? Were you always kind of on this trajectory? Were you kind of off on your own trajectory? Like bird's eye view, like what would have been a few moments we would have seen?
Oh my gosh. If I'm just doing this right now for the first time, like looking back, Chelsey. I feel like I had to be this way. Otherwise I would have been just a debilitating people pleaser because like my sisters used to work me. I was the youngest, you know, my twin and I were the youngest. And they'd be like, Chelsey, we're going to time you. Go get my book from and we had this like, you know, 3-story house. So I had to like run up all these stairs. Like, we're going to time you. And I'm like, okay. You know, like I'd like run and grab the book and it was always 16 seconds. So I don't think that they actually timed me. But I wanted to serve. I've always just wanted to serve. So I've known that I wanted to get out and study in New York, you know, ever since I was a little kid. But I took on the parent role in my house. And so I worked nights at a gas station. While I was in school, I would glaze the donuts and frost the donuts. And then when somebody would come in and I put them, I'm like, what's your name? And I put their name in the donut. But I would work nights and then I would go to school all day. And I had to get a scholarship, otherwise we couldn't afford to go. So I would just work my butt off, and the nurse and I became friends. So I would sleep like during the classes that I could like get away with. And that was like, I had a very atypical, you know, high school experience. But in the end, I had like a 4.16 GPA. I was like, what do I have to do? Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more.
I'm not going to be frosting donuts forever.
You know? So I did end up getting out, and I triple majored in school, and I studied classical singing. I studied opera, so because I wanted to learn languages, and I wanted to learn as many languages as I could, and that's just how I saw it. And then I studied classical theater because I wanted to study people, and you know, history, and that's what I want to study. And then I studied dance, like classical dance, because really what you learn when you major in dance is you learn about cultures, and you learn about how people celebrate and how they grieve and how they express pleasure and joy, and like that's what you learn, you know. And I really just was fascinated with human beings and how we do what we do. And so I went in and they were like, absolutely not, because I didn't have any training. We couldn't afford going to dance classes. I didn't have a single piano lesson, you know. It's like I literally just walked in, I'm like, this is what I want to do, and they laughed me out of the room. They're like, oh my, Minnesota girls, like what are you doing? I came back the next day to my advisor with a 27-page dissertation, and I was like, this is why you're going to let me do this. Yeah. It's my money. No, you know, it's like, this is why. And he was like, okay. You know, I was like, okay. And every day I was just a thorn in his side, because I'm like, now why do I have to take calculus? You know, it's like, because that doesn't make any sense. This is dance. So I got him to write off on, there was this hearing and deaf sciences building that they were studying the sound waves. Yeah. And I was like, that is math, you know? And so I ended up doing 4 years of that. I learned sign language as my language because I have singing all the time. And I'm like, what language can I not? Oh, there we go. I don't have to speak, you know? But I loved it. Yeah. So school was huge for me because it was my way of going, like kind of stepping into my power and say, hey, I deserve this, and I'm going to fight for this, and you're going to let me do it. So,
yeah. Really feels like being a fighter, I don't know if this resonates, feels like a big theme, and kind of like, this is what I've been taught, or this is like how it should be, and no, I want more. And like that theme again and again. And was entrepreneurship always in your blood, or was that like a learned new thing, or how did you start to transition into more entrepreneurship? And
well, my why was always so big, you know, it's like, I have all women in my family, you know, and I'm like connected to like my bloodline, you know, of the women who have been here before and the struggles that they have had to get to where they are. And I've just had the most hardworking women, you know, in my bloodline. And every opportunity that I would get, you know, was like, I traveled to Spain. That was my first like out of the country. I'm in Spain. And, you know, when I got to go to the ocean, and nobody in my family had been at the ocean, you know, it's like, or what these little experiences, I'm like, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for every single woman in my bloodline and every woman to follow, you know, like I'm going to pave a way. So that anybody who comes next is going to be easier for her, you know, like she can get to where I am and past me, you know? So I guess it was just that. It just was always in my heartbeat. You know, I was like, do more, be more. I nearly had a panic attack the first time I was on an airplane. You know, I'm like 17 years old. I'm like, you know, they close the door. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. But yeah, I'm like, I know I can get through this. It's only hard right now. It's gonna get easier and easier, and it did. But I have heaps of compassion for women who are like just stepping out for the first time. You know, I'm like, I know how that feels, man. You're doing great. You know, it's like, oh my goodness. So I see people all the time, you know, where I sense that it's like maybe their first flight, and I'm always like, can I change my seat? Like I'll sit next to them. I'm like, we're gonna breathe. Here we go. You know, it's like, you got this. You can hold on to my leg if you need to, you know. But it's real. It's
totally real. Yeah. Even our unconventional life events, which we were talking about before, you know, we had a few people that had never been like across, you know, the ocean to Bali last November.
Oh, Bali's a track.
Yeah, to go from like the States to Bali for the first time of like, okay, you can do this. And so I'm curious though for you, you know, it seems like your mindset, and I imagine a lot of different interpersonal practices have played a huge role in helping you really like keep raising your own bar. And I'm curious if there's like one or two that you could share with our listeners that you feel like really has made a difference or consistently makes a difference. Because I know for myself, like as much as empowered, inspired that I want to be, I'm just not that way all the time. Like I have my like lows, and sometimes not only do I have my lows, I'm like, oh, what is the point of being a skin in this body? Like, are we there yet?
We're so much higher.
Are we there yet? Totally. So like it's just part of the human experience.
So
true.
true.
Like when you get in those places, like how do you keep yourself going, and how do you keep your focus and allow for like, you know, the natural ebbs and flows?
Yeah, well, you hit it right there. It's nature connection for me, 100%. And that will hit on the human thing, because you're right, we are so much higher. We vibrate so much higher that sometimes the flesh can be like, really? You know, it's like, come on, you know, totally. Grief for real? Like, I have to go through this again? And you do. And there's a beauty. There is such a beauty. And the season I'm in right now, if we're being honest, is full of grief. It's so full of grief. And I think that right now I'm actually strong enough in body, mind, and soul to experience this grief. I think in the past I've always done like a little, and I'm like, and we're good. You know, like that's gonna derail my whole year, you know, if I really let that in. And now it's like I'm actually to a point where I can look at it for a teacher and a guide. And that's real, you know, it's like the grief that is coming for me is not just with the ending of a relationship, but or the loss, it's going all the way back to like childhood decisions that I had to make to survive, you know, which we all do. All of us do, no matter how healthy of a culture you grew up in, you know, or how healthy of a household, all of us had to make a decision very, very young that says, I will not sing in my true voice if you keep me safe. I will not, and you keep me, that's the agreement that we're gonna make. And then we get to a place in our lives, not maturing by age, but by soul, you know, it's like we get to a maturity of soul, and we realize that we have to break that contract. We have to go, not anymore, you know, it's like, I leave the safety of that protection, and I step out into this wild night, as Mary Oliver said, of my soul. You know, like I step out into the unknown, and that's where I'm at right now. And honestly, it's this wild, beautiful place that I'm learning for the first time. I'm like, oh, grief is a teacher. Grief is actually here to give me the clarity that I've been praying for the last 10 years. I'm like, oh my goodness, now I know on a bone deep level of what's valuable to me. Now I know what's worth my time. Now I know what's a definite yes and a definite no. Like, and I've been wanting that clarity. I've been kind of like wandering around in the night, if you can imagine, going like, do I belong here? It's like, what do I do? And now with this grief that I'm letting in, you know, like that I'm actually feeling and going back to those times of when I made those decisions, you know, of like, I'm going to be small, I'm going to be dim. It's okay, I don't matter, I don't count, it's okay, you know, like that person, and going, I see you, baby girl, and I love you, you know, and I know exactly why you made that decision, and it was the right one at the time, you know, and now we're going somewhere else, you know.
And it's like, it's such profound and deep work to give yourself that gift of feeling grief, and I think so many of us as like, you know, high performers or those that are in the public eye or even like in your job or whatever it is that you're doing in the world, you know, it's like often not convenient, where it's like, oh, I've got like all these people that I'm accountable to, or I have this family that I'm accountable to, and I need to be strong, and I don't have the time, and it's just really not the right time. And what we do is we stuff, we push it down, we have our different addictions, our glass of wine at night, whatever that thing might be, and I find like it takes something to do that. And so for anyone that's kind of like bordering the line, that is like got something that's been percolating, and you know who you are. You know who you are. You're not forgetting about you too. You know who you are. Any like just little advice on how to like even open up the window a little bit to kind of say, hey, like it's gonna be okay, and there's like a space for both.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's not doing it alone. You don't need to do it alone. You know, that's a big threshold. It's a big threshold to cross. You know, and I definitely haven't done it alone. You know, I have people that I have on my accountability team that are checking in and going like, all right, how are we, you know, because trauma is real, you know, like I'm not particularly talking about trauma right now, but I have trauma, you know, that is in the conversation, and that's something to be done in community of somebody who can really hold the space with you there. But if we're not talking about that and we're just talking about, you know, that those awakenings or just grief in general, you're in a breakup or you're in a, you know, this really unknown place of your life, so much compassion, you know, like it's just being able to stand, this is how I see it, being able to stand in the center of your wholeness, which is really what mindfulness practice, like meditation is. It's being able to listen and kind of sit back and go, all right, I've got me, the center of me, and then I have all of these voices that are speaking. I've got little me, you know, I've got like 6-year-old me, I've got like rebellious teenage me, you know, I've got future me that's like, hey, you know, like trying to protect things and whatever. Like I've got all of these voices that are there, rightfully so, you know, it's not like, rightfully so, they're trying to protect you, they have a role, and being able to like allow it, like I'm just gonna allow these voices to speak. Just gonna allow it. I'm not gonna change it. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm just gonna allow it. And then the more that you have that relationship with yourself from a really compassionate place, you're able to go like, hey, I know where that's coming from, but it's too small for me. It's too small for me right now. I'm gonna play bigger. I'm gonna go bigger. And then that part starts to like believe your wholeness a little bit more. And it's like, yeah, it is too small. Yeah, you know, and it's like it'll start to come along, but you can see how I'm talking about it. There's some humor to it.
Completely. And lightness.
Come
and just
on.
like, and it has to be.
It's
we
wild.
make it so significant and
It
so
is. It
heavy
is.
and so all these things.
So wild.
So,
and we all do it.
Completely.
You know, we all are gonna escape
Yeah.
in some way, you know, like that is a universal thing that all of us are gonna do. We're gonna be like, that's uncomfortable or that's unpleasant and I'd rather not feel it, and that's okay, you know, and then you return. And then you might escape again, and then you return, and that's just living.
It is living, totally. So good. So last question for you before we jump into the rapid fire round, which is around Instagram. So I know you have built up, you know, through your different videos, and you've built up, you know, quite a big following on Instagram. And what do you think has been your secret to it? And how do you even relate to Instagram? Is it like this like pressure kind of thing? Is it this super fun creative outlet? Like so often it's like social media, gotta do it this way, gotta do it that way. But I find there's like such a genuine quality that I see like in how you're interacting. And so just curious how you've grown your Instagram up so quickly. And maybe it wasn't quickly, but it seems like
it wasn't quickly.
Yeah.
But you know, honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know algorithms. I don't know when you're supposed to post. I don't know who sees it. I have no idea. I have a great team that I have, and they know those things. But all I do is like, these are people that I talk to every day. You know, it's like I have people, I've got like probably like 100 people that are like tried and true that I talk to on a regular basis, you know, that are telling me about their lives, and they're showing me videos of their kids, and I've been watching them grow up, and you know, they'll have a hard day, and I have a lot of young girls on there, you know, that have real questions, and they're like, how do I do this? And they'll send me selfies in the mirror like, how do I love this? And I'm like, oh, I got you, girl. You know, it's like, and then I'll do a video back, and you know, it's a very personal thing, and I guess the rules are for me is if it's not true, then don't teach it and don't talk about it. You know, it's like, because you just don't know. And if it's something that you're going through, you're probably not the only one going through it. And so just by being vulnerable and allowing yourself to be vulnerable can speak volumes, you know, and just showing up. You know, showing up. I was in the gym the other day, and this person came up to me. He's like, Chelsey, I follow you on Instagram. You clean up trash. I was like, yes, it's my legacy. I was like, the trash lady. You know, I was like, amazing. You know, but it's so. But it was a joke. But the thing about it is like, I will clean up trash. I was doing a cleanup in Atlanta. I got poison oak all over my ivy. I don't remember what it is, but it was all over my legs. I was on the airplane, and I was like itching, and I'm like, dang it, you know. I was like, dang it, and I was like, was it even worth doing? You know, we didn't have a lot of people there, and I'm like, I don't know. And I open up my Instagram, and there's somebody in the Philippines doing an ocean cleanup, and I'm like, you inspired me, and I just like. I just like broke down. The guy next to me, he's like, she's itching, she's crying. Can I get in the seat? You know? But it's like, you never know the impact that you're gonna have, and just sharing from an authentic place of this is what I love, this is what I feel called to. It gives people permission to do the same, and that's amazing.
Yeah, so good. Okay, rapid fire round. Series of questions coming at you.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Question numero uno.
Okay.
If you really knew me, fill in the blank. If you really knew me, you would know what?
If you really knew me, you'd know that I love to sing. Yeah.
Question number two. What is one weird fact that most people don't know about you?
One weird fact is that I live off of almond butter and bananas.
So good.
Yep.
Next question. If you could turn back time to your 16-year-old self and give her a piece of advice from what you know now, what would you say to her?
I'd say that The first thing that came into my head is I would say to her that what drives you, you know, all this rebellion, you know, of like, I gotta be different. One day it won't be a touchstone at all, and you will just be able to love what you love without having to rebel.
So good. Yep. Last question. What does living the unconventional life mean to you?
The only way to live.
Yay! Unconventional life, the only way to live. Chelsey, Korus, everyone. So good. So Chelsey, tell us about I know you've got a bunch of retreats that you're doing. You're on tour right now. You're like, we were talking about your ridiculous travel schedule. You're going to be like everywhere. But what's happening in your world right now, and what can people know about what you're up to?
Okay, Scottsdale this weekend. Then it's like, oh goodness, it goes Scottsdale, and we got Dallas, and we have Atlanta, and Seattle, and San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and it goes on and on. I'm all over the U.S. with all of the 108s this year. In the fall, we're going to go to Scotland, and Greece, and Zurich, and Bali. In December, we're going to go back to Bali. I don't know if I've ever announced that. You're the first people that are hearing. We're going back to Bali. We're going to Soulshine. So it's going to be a big international fall. Yeah.
And for those that want to join your retreats, follow on your journey, just stay in touch with you, what's the best way to do all that?
Yeah, ChelseyKorus.com. All the retreats are there. You can sign up for everything there. And Chelsey Korus, everything. It's just Twitter, Facebook, everything is just Chelsey Korus.
We'll put all those links on our website. You all can head over to unconventionallifeshow.com. For those of you on the Facebook Live, you can head over there as soon as this is out and check it all out. And Chelsey, thanks so much for sitting down with us today, for joining us in person. For those that are listening on audio, head over to the website to make sure you catch the video.
Amazing.
And anything else you'd like to add before we call it a wrap for the day?
No, stay awake.
Yeah, stay awake,
stay
everyone.
awake.
Chelsey, Korus. Lots of love, everyone. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.